Hi there. So we want you to come in for your appointment ready to be able to put contacts in and out. The doctor's going to put contacts in your eyes for you, and then we'll have you come out to our station here where we'll have you practice taking it out and putting it in. To help you be ready to go when you get here, we're going to go through your class in a video to go over all the rules of the things that you should and shouldn't be doing, as well as showing you the technique of how you'll put your contacts in and out as well. So it is going to be important for a while for you to have a mirror in front of you in order to be able to get your contacts in and out and help you. We are going to send you with a box. Inside that box is going to be a little bottle of solution as well as a case. Now there are a lot of different brands out there. We do recommend that you stick with name brand solutions just because they are going to ensure that you get offered the most up-to-date formulas with the least likeliness of causing you any excessive dryness or irritation due to the preservatives that they're using in those formulas. Your generic store brands usually are going to offer much older formula brands, and then you're more likely to have those irritations and sensitivities with the older formulas. Now your cases, regardless of brand, are always going to make sure that you can tell the difference between the right and the left side. You might not be able to see my R, but this case has an R marked on top, an R marked on the bottom, and then your right is also a different color for you as well. It is a really good habit to get into of putting right and left, even if you end up having the same prescription in each eye, because the likelihood of your prescription remaining the same over time is very slim, and we want you to not accidentally be switching them and putting them in the wrong eyes. So a good way to develop that habit is getting in the habit of putting the same lens in first, the same lens out first, so no matter what you're doing, you're always reaching for one side of the case first, and then you're less likely to accidentally mix them up. So when you have your contact lens cases, when they originally come, it's not sealed all the way down here so that you can slowly pull without ripping and tearing out that lens and making it pop out. Now to get it out of a case or a package, all you have to do is make sure that you're always working with the pads of your fingers, never the tips of your fingers. You're just going to gently push down and it's going to suction onto the pad of your finger. If it doesn't, you can always push and slide along the bottom and use your thumb to help catch it at the top. Okay. First thing I'm going to show you right now is how to tell, and we'll go over this again because sometimes it's hard to tell with the camera, is checking to see if your lens is the right way. So you always want to make sure that that lens is up like a bowl, and obviously you need to be able to see that bowl. So if it's too low or if it's too high, you're not going to be able to tell. So you need to have that eye level so that you can see that bowl shape. Okay, and if it's blurry, then you can get a little bit of light, and same thing, keep that angle and use some light to help you see that. When a lens is the right way, the edge is going to have a nice soft rounded curl to the edge. When it's inside out, you're going to get more of a straight up and out and sometimes almost flaring out type of an edge. And obviously you won't be able to see it right here. We'll show that to you with your particular lens when you come in for your appointment. Now, when you're putting your contacts in and out, especially in the beginning, it is very important that you get as tight of a hold as possible so that you can overcompensate for any fight that your eyes might give you. Most people in the beginning, the eyes are going to try to slam shut on you and do everything they can to avoid something coming at your eye. So you need to be able to compensate and get a really tight hold. What's going to help you get the tightest hold that you can possibly get is one hand holding the top and one hand holding the bottom. The hand on the top is going to help you the most to add control if you plant that hand to the top of your head and you don't remove it. Because if you keep that hand there, if you're pulling this top lid up and it tries to slam shut on you, this hold is going to remain pulling up, because to come down you're going to have to push your fingers into your eye, and your instincts are going to try to prevent you from doing that. So you're more likely to keep pulling in the up direction so that you keep that eye nice and wide. Now you can grab your lids with your ring, middle finger, or both, whatever makes you feel like you get a better hold over your eyelids. Some important things is where you grab. So we always want you to be right smack dab in the middle. If you pull out in the corners, your eye isn't going to get wide enough. You also want to make sure that you're always pulling straight up and down and never off to the side, or the same problem occurs and you start to narrow how much room that you have to work with. Now I apologize, I can't see very well. I'm going to do my best to make sure that you can see everything that I'm doing. Now you're usually going to use the mirror. I'm going to use the camera just so that you can see how this is going to work. The things that are going to help you is the opposite eye that you're not working on needs to remain open and be looking in the mirror at the eye that you're working on. Instinct usually kicks in and you're going to go to try to pry open one eye and that one's going to want to close. But if this one closes, this one's going to look up and you're not going to be able to watch what you're doing and be able to get in the right spot. Okay? So if you'll tilt your chin a little bit while you're looking at the mirror, notice how it extends that top lid. We want to be grabbing as close as we can get to where the eyelashes come out of our eyelids. This is going to keep all that extra skin behind where you're grabbing so that when you look straight on, you're going to get a nice deep V. Same on the bottom. Right up against that lash line, you'll get a nice deep V. By keeping this eye focused in the mirror at the eye that you're trying to work on, it's going to ensure that you aim, because if this one looks away, this one's going to wander, and then you're not going to be able to see what you're doing. When you're putting a contact in, think of it like a suction cup. You need to go all the way till you feel your finger gently push up against your eye. Bring that finger away. Keep holding your eye open. Look all the way down. And then while you're looking down, let that top lid close. You won't always have to do it that exact way. It's going to help in the beginning with instinct. Instinct, when we first start with contacts, one second, is we want to try to help our eye. So what we tend to do is we get that lens on. We feel our finger touch. We really quickly try to push our eye shut and we pop the lens back out. So avoid the urge in the beginning to let your instincts take over. Eventually, you're going to start out with a bunch of weird feelings. When the lens starts to touch your eye, you get kind of a ticklish sensation. So in the beginning, it overwhelms the brain. That's why we have you very much focused just on one spot. When all these weird feelings start to go away, the eye that's not being worked on is going to learn to take over, and you'll be able to use it to guide yourself in the mirror and pay attention to any little details. Looking down first and then closing ensures that if you have any air pockets in that lens, that they get smushed out but remain in place. It'll take some time, but if you'll grab the way that we tell you to grab and do these little things to help compensate for the weird things that happen in the beginning using contacts, it will help you get those reflexes to relax quicker and get over those weird sensations a little bit quicker as well. Okay. Now, as far as taking the lens out, which I'll show you now, and then we'll go over some stuff with your case. You want to think of, again, like a suction cup. So, suction cup, once against a surface, you release it by pushing pressure against the edge, and that pops the suction. Same thing. As soon as a contact lens is over the color of your eye, that's the best hold it gets. It doesn't matter if you blink, it doesn't matter if you scrunch, it doesn't matter if you look up. That lens is going to stay stuck to the color. It is not going to slide around the white part of your eye. So because of that, it is going to require that you push some pressure up against your eyeball to help the edges of the lens release from your eyeball. Since you are pushing up against your eye, it is very important that you never use a pinching motion with the tips of your fingers. Even if your nails are trimmed back, if you are doing this, you are going to run the risk of scratching your eye and also tearing your contact to pieces. So instead, you want to pretend that these two fingers are chopsticks. You're going to connect them. You're going to flex them apart so that when you come up and you touch your eye, the only thing that's touching your eye are the pads of your fingers. When it's the pads of your fingers, you can push quite a bit amount of pressure up against your eye without it hurting or risking you any harm by doing so. Now, bearing that in mind, when I show you how to take it off, I am going to push up against my eye with a whole lot more pressure than I have to make it release, simply to show you that it is not going to harm you by pushing up against that eyeball, okay? So same thing, nice tight hold, one hand on top, one hand on bottom. Again, right up against that lash line, so you get a nice deep V, and again, right up against that lash line. Now, sometimes your instincts, your fingers aren't going to want to come up. So you just got to remember, middle finger, and bring these two fingers together. You're going to keep this eye focused on the mirror, on the eye that you're working on. Now, our instinct in the beginning is to gently slide over the surface. It might move that contact and cause it to tickle, but it's not going to release. So instead, you're going to push in, and then while you're pushing in, push those two fingers together. Now, the other part of getting it to release from your eye is that you don't pull back or yank away from your eye too quickly. Same thing, you're just trying to avoid the instincts that try to take over. And I'm going to put my glasses on so that I can see a little bit better with this. So what happens is all the weird feelings that we get. You'll start to get up here to your eye and you'll start to push the amount of pressure that you need, and it's going to cause a really odd sensation. It doesn't hurt, but it just feels really weird. So a lot of times you get right where you need to be and your instinct kicks in and you pull back really quickly before you've pushed your fingers together. Even if that lens starts to release from the pressure, if you pull back too quickly, it is going to usually suction itself right back to your eye. So it is very important that you make sure to continually push in while you push together so that it remains trapped in between those two fingers, okay? Now, in the beginning of using contacts, it is really helpful that you set aside extra time. What tends to get people messed up and get them frustrated or giving up on contacts is their nerves getting the better of them. Extra time is going to be the best way to counteract that. So we recommend, everyone's different, but for the first few weeks to the first few months of using contacts, that you set aside anywhere from an extra 10 to 15 minutes to even as much as 30 to 45 minutes for getting ready, even at the end of the day, depending on if you're taking them out and still have things to do at the end of the day. Setting aside that extra time is going to ensure that if something is causing you stress, whether it's related to your contacts or outside sources in your house, if you are stressed out and your nerves are worked up and you're trying to deal with your contacts while that is going on, it is going to usually take you 10 times longer to deal with your contacts. And the more frustrated you get, the harder it's going to get, and you're just going to not have it work for you. Extra time will ensure that if you need a break, that you can set things aside, go take a few minutes, breathe, get nice and calm, and then deal with your contacts and know that you still have plenty of time once you've had time to calm down, okay? Now, as far as your case goes, every morning, so we're going to start actually right here. So say you open up a brand new case, brand new package for the day. You'll put that contact in your eye. At the end of the day, you're going to take it out. Now, your cases are going to mark a ring inside the case, and we'll show you this obviously when you get here, but they are going to mark a ring to let you know where you should be pouring your solution up to. This particular case has some lines that go up the side, and where the lines end at the top, they make a little ring. Some have a solid lined rings, some have little notches all the way around, but they're always going to mark that. So when you're putting your lens away at the end of the day, what you want to do is start with a little bit of solution. It doesn't have to be a ton. A little bit of solution is going to help so that when you take your contact out, if it's a little sticky or a little dry and wanting to stay stuck to your finger, as soon as you go low enough to touch it into the solution, it wants to stay there and you don't have to fight to make it release from your finger. Once it's in the case, you'll then pour over the top of it until it's buried under the ring. And then you would cinch your lids on nice and tight. And then storage-wise, whether it's storing overnight or during the day when you got your contacts in your eyes, whether there's lenses in it or not, we want you storing this case where you are less likely to have any contamination. An ideal spot, if you have it available, is some cupboards in your bathroom with some shelving behind them, higher cupboards or a higher vanity mirror that has some shelving behind it. Especially if there's little ones in the house, if they can't see it or reach it, then they are very unlikely to play with it. If you don't have that option, a lot of people will keep them in a clean drawer in the bathroom vanity. Some people will keep them in a clean spot on their dresser in their bedroom. If you put them on your countertop in your bathroom, we want it as far up against the back so it's up against the wall and away from anything right by the edge so somebody doesn't knock it to the floor by accident, and also away from the soap so that somebody doesn't accidentally contaminate it while they're washing their hands, okay? Now, as far as your routine in the morning, if you are opening up a brand new package, that lens can go straight from the package straight into your eye. Every night it goes in your case, and then every morning when you're getting it out of your case, you are going to clean that contact lens first before it goes into your eye. Now, say you've already cleaned it or you're opening up a brand new package, if you drop your contact lens, it is important that you clean it 2 or 3 times before you put it in your eye. I'm going to really quickly show you how to clean it, and we'll let you practice when you get here with doing it on your own as well. Now, important things about contacts. They are going to feel really flimsy, really fragile. As long as you handle them properly, they are a lot more durable than they appear. So the important thing with contacts is that you always make sure that you work with the pads of your fingers to avoid your nails. So in the beginning, if you keep your nails long, keep your fingers flexed back so you make sure you work with those pads. And then always make sure that that lens remains wet. Tearing happens for contacts because you either catch it with a fingernail or you let the lens get too dry. So if you'll avoid those two things, then it is very unlikely that you ever damage a contact. To clean the lens, all you got to do is scoop that lens into the palm of your hand. You are going to pour a good puddle of solution into the palm of your hand, and then using the pad of your finger, you're going to fold that lens in half and you're going to rub it really good for about 20 to 30 seconds. As long as you rub that lens with the pad of your finger and it remains wet while rubbing it, then no amount of rubbing, pressure is going to damage that contact lens, okay? So once you've cleaned it, there's a few different ways to handle it. Like I said, they're going to feel really flimsy. They're going to feel really delicate. The more you handle them, the less flimsy they're going to feel to you. Some easy ways to handle that lens. If you grab it by an edge just between the pads of two fingers, the nice thing about that is you'll hold it, but it's not going to suction onto either finger. So when you move, it's going to stay where you want it when you let go. But you can also scoop up underneath it to transfer it around, scoop it out of your hand. If you get it out of the palm of your hand by pushing your finger into the lens, usually sliding it around is not going to make it come off of your finger. So all you got to do is treat it like it's your eye and simply pinch it off. Now if your lens folds, some of them don't like to stay folded, but if it folds, do not try to pry it apart because you'll either accidentally pull too hard and tear it or you'll catch a fingernail and tear it. So instead you are going to push and roll until you pop it up, and then you can scoop up underneath to get all the edges up off, okay? Now, let me get that back in there. Some important things that you can try before coming into our office for your appointment. Like I said, reflexes get in our way a lot, and some people's reflexes are stronger than others. So the important things with contacts, which you did not see me wash my hands, but I did, before putting contacts in your eyes, before taking them out of your eyes, or even throughout the day if you feel like you need to touch your eyes, you need to make sure that you wash very thoroughly with warm water and soap, rinse your hands completely, and dry them completely, okay? Contacts are like a sponge when it comes to bacteria. Any bacteria gets on that lens is going to hold on to it. So if it's sitting over your eye and you've got that happening, it's going to hold all that bacteria right there so that that bacteria can multiply and wreak all sorts of havoc. We want you to do everything you can to minimize any risk of causing yourself any infection or damage to your eyes. Water and saliva should never come into contact with your contact lenses. The only thing that you should ever be touching them with is contact lens solution. Saliva, and regardless of the source of water, all water, they have a particular bacteria present that not only can cause an infection to our eyes, it can cause permanent damage as well as permanent loss of vision to our eyes. So it is not worth the risk. Only ever be using contact lens solution to your contacts, okay? Because of that, it is a good idea to keep little bottles in a backpack, purse, when you're traveling, just so that you always have some solution on hand in case you need it, okay? Now, we don't expect you to remember all the rules, and I may have missed some. We might go over some more when you come in on your appointment. We also send you with a paper that will go home with you that has all the things that you should and should not be doing with contact lenses, in case we forgot anything in this video, or in case we forget as well when we're discussing it when you come in. Some things to practice that can help you be a little bit more prepared for when you are attempting the contacts here in the office to get those reflexes to relax is clean hands. You don't have to worry about touching your eyes, but some clean hands. You can have a mirror or just practice watching with your fingers. But if you will practice watching one of your fingers come at your eye, you don't have to touch your eye. You're just trying to get as close as you can without flinching. And then same thing, the hold that I showed you of how to hold your eyes open, you can practice that hold again with clean, dry fingers and just see if you can't get to a point where you can hold that eye with this eye open without it fighting you and bringing your finger close without touching, and that will help those reflexes relax so that you're a little bit more prepared for the actual contacts when you come in for your appointment. And those little things can help those reflexes start to learn to relax. Okay? All right. Now, contact lens case. Say it's the morning and you're putting your contacts in. As soon as your contacts are in your eyes, the solution that was soaking those lenses overnight needs to be dumped out every single morning. If you put your contacts into your eyes and you close it and you just keep reusing that solution day in, day out, maybe add a little bit more as it dwindles down, the disinfectant is going to stop working, bacteria is going to start to grow, and then you're going to get an eye infection. So every single morning, as soon as those contacts are in your eyes, you're going to dump the solution down the drain. I'm just going to do it on my table for purpose of staying in camera. That case needs to be allowed to air dry every single day. So as soon as your contacts are in and that's dumped out, you're going to notice things like dust in your home, fuzzies from your towels. If you're a makeup wearer, makeup, they like to go all over the inside and outside of your case. The best time to clean that case is in the morning once your contacts are in and you've just dumped it out. The only thing you clean that case with is contact lens solution, okay? Plastic has microscopic cracks, so because of that, this case never goes in the dishwasher. You do not ever wash it with soap and water, and you do not ever put bleach inside of this case, or you are going to run into problems. Only solution. Make sure your hands are clean and dry, because some things like to suction. Usually just a quick spray and a dump will get it out, but sometimes, especially like makeup and certain dust particles, they don't like to flush out. So making sure your hands are clean, you would flush and then rub and dump. And then same thing with the inside of the lid. Flush the inside of the lid. And then you're going to dump it really good, and you're going to set the lids. If you do not have a clean place that's not going to get really dusty, dump it out and just gently let the lids set, and then that way the case can air dry all day. If you cinch the lids tight, even though there's nothing in it, it's going to remain moist all day long, and then you're more likely to get bacteria growing in there, and then more likely to get an eye infection. If you do have a clean place where nothing is going to bother this, then you can take both lids off, keep them face up, and then you'll turn the case this way, and then that way it can air dry that way. But you want to make sure that you have a clean place that's not going to get a lot of dust to do it that way. So if that's not an option, the easiest is to just gently let the lid set so that it can air dry throughout the day. Okay. Every 3 months, you are going to throw your case in the garbage and you're going to replace it with a brand new case. Same reason, it's to help you minimize any risk of any possible infections that can arise from being a contact lens wearer. Now, typically, if you are the only person that's using a large bottle of solution, most people will go through one of these large bottles on their own about every 3 months. So you usually need to replace your solution in your case at the exact same time. Now, some things can change that. Sometimes if you have multiple contact lens wearers, some people will share one bottle for whoever's in that bathroom, or some people do it where everyone has their own. If you need a case, but you do not need to buy solution, you can usually get 1 to 12 packs of just cases in your grocery stores. Solution and the cases are usually sold, whether it's in Costco or a grocery store or even just like a normal pharmacy store like Rite Aid or something like that. They're usually going to keep them closer to where the actual pharmacy is in those aisles. The little tiny bottles are not always sold everywhere, but when a grocery store sells the little sized bottles, they are going to keep them down the aisles where you find the traveled sized items so that you can still get these when you need them. Okay. Now, whether you are the only person using a bottle of solution or you're sharing between other people, it is very important that you never directly touch the tip of that bottle to your hands, your contact lens, or inside of the case where your lens has been. Even if you're the only person using it, if you're touching it, say you get an eye infection and you don't realize you have an eye infection yet. If you've been touching that, all that bacteria goes into that bottle, and then every single time you open up a new lens, that bacteria goes on that lens and you get that infection over and over and over again. And if you're sharing with people, then you're transferring that as well. So always make sure that you are pouring from a distance. If you make a mess, it's easy to clean up. But then you avoid any risk of causing yourself any problems because of contamination of your solution. Okay. Now, recommend, if you do have multiple contact lens wearers, especially if you're using the same brand for everybody of Cases and Solution, take a Sharpie and write your name on the top of your lid, just so that you don't accidentally put in somebody else's contacts into your eyes, okay? Thank you for watching. Practice this, and hopefully you are ready to go when you come into our office.